So I thought I would do this week's podcast on a walk. Our cleaning lady's here today. My wife is working from home, so it was quite noisy inside. And the last time I tried to do this out back by the pool, the mic wasn't working the way that I wanted to. I'm getting an external mic, I'll figure all that out. But I figured I would do this, and I like doing the podcasts without cutting them. I might add some intro, I might add some things like that, but this felt like a really good way to get my 1 mile walk in and talk the entire time. So if I can do this episode in what will probably be between 15 and 20 minutes, then I think that's a win. So here we go. This week I wanted to talk about purpose and meaning. The impetus behind that was essentially I asked for a list of topics people wanted to hear from, and this came up from 2 different sources, so I thought it would be interesting. It's a lore drop episode, so I get to kind of just talk, which I think is great. And hopefully this has been helpful for some people. It'll be helpful for more. So we'll get into it. There are kind of 3 things for me that I think purpose and meaning relate to. And I feel like I'm going to jump all over the place, so bear with me. I have no notes for this. But one, when thinking about this, I like to try to define purpose and meaning and how they're kind of the same thing to me. From my perspective, when I think about a purposeful or meaningful life, I think there's a level of contentment with who you are as a person and with who you can still become. And I don't think that ever changes. I don't think that wanting to be better should ever change. So if I kind of give it like a base, very vague definition, I think purpose and meaning is about how content you are with how content you could potentially become with who you are as a person, and then externally secondarily. So I don't care how much money I make. I don't care how big my house is. I don't care what kind of car I drive. I don't care what job I have. Am I happy with who I am, what I've accomplished, and what I can still accomplish? For me, purpose and meaning, then, if I kind of delve into that, is about my growth as a person, including the externally, and how much I have grown. So in how much I've grown and how much I can grow as a person. There are things that I've done in my life that have basically made that happen, right? So getting married, I'm changing. I'm a different person. I have a different scenario. I have a different set of responsibilities. And learning to be a husband is much different than learning to be a best friend. Getting into relationships, learning to be a good boyfriend is vastly different than learning to be a good husband. You absolutely have different sets of responsibilities in that relationship. An extension of that then becomes becoming a father and being a part of the family. What was allowed to be selfish and my time is my time now becomes my time is our time. And there's no words. I'm looking for a word. Exception to that rule. I wanted something else, but there's no exception to that. If you're married and have kids and you're selfish with your time, you are not a good partner. Even if your partner wants you or your kids want you to be selfish, because maybe I work 60 hours a week and when I get done working, I just want to go hide in my hole. Oh, that's good for us. It's not. You have to find ways to compromise on those things. And I'm ashamed to say, but not ashamed to say, that there have been times where that was me. I am an introvert. This is very hard for me to do. Going to work, being in the office, and turning around, coming home, the amount of energy that I have to exude to be a good coworker for 10-ish hours a day is exhausting. But when I come home, my responsibilities as a father and a husband don't go anywhere. And I've had to learn that. I've had to grow. So all this tangent is basically, it's okay to fuck up, but your purpose and meaning in life as an extension of that is learning how to not be a fuck up. It doesn't matter where you were, it matters where you can go. And if you take the time and energy into being a better person for the responsibilities you have, then no matter the outcomes at the end of the day, you are achieving your purpose. You haven't achieved your purpose, but you are achieving it. So I think that starts with one version of that. Hey, how's it going? That's one example of kind of the growth mindset that I'm talking about. And actually my wife and I have a very kind of funny back and forth about things, because I talked to her about watching and listening to the Andrew Huberman podcast and how I'm learning this, I'm learning that. I just randomly take like Coursera or Udemy courses. I have a subscription to Masterclass and things like that, because I like to absorb things. Whether or not I'm going to fully use them doesn't matter. I like to absorb things, even if I listen to something for an hour and I only get 10 minutes of useful bits. That to me is a valuable use of my time. My wife has said numerous times, if I don't know that it's going to directly correlate to something that I have to do, I don't want to do it. So we have very different learning styles. There are times, via acknowledgement, that sometimes learning is a form of procrastination. And it took me basically meeting my wife to learn this. Preparation is a form of procrastination. You can over prep. And this is something that I learned when becoming a fiance, and then a husband, and then a father. I'm off on a tangent again, but these are things I've learned by stepping into a role that forced me to become a better person, to look for additional places to grow. And ultimately, I think, finding new purposes. Number two, what I wanted to talk about was happiness and finding purpose and meaning in life, finding happiness. Happiness has a sliding scale. I don't know that anyone who says find something you enjoy and do that for the rest of your life, I don't think that that's 100% viable either, because people have needs. I don't know what it was, behavioral economics. I think it was maybe something like freakonomics or some shit like that, where there was a conversation around money doesn't buy happiness after a certain point. And I can't remember what it was. Was it like $70,000 or $80,000 a year? That basically up to that point, it's hard to be happy. But after, let's say, $100,000 a year, that the average person who makes $100,000 a year is no happier or less happy than the average person who makes $1 million a year. So there is a line there in terms of needing money to be happy. But so I think you need money. So if you like making coffee at Starbucks, no shame to anyone who is a barista and likes being a barista. If you like doing that, unless you can make sure that you get enough money to survive, to do the things you want to do, then doing what makes you happy for the rest of your life probably isn't going to cut it. Additionally, I want to go into happiness as finding happiness as finding your purpose. I don't know that I ever did that in terms of doing what I enjoyed. I tended to, again, I'm only 41. Like, let's just say I'm halfway through my life, if life expectancy is 80. I've enjoyed what I've done, but I always tried to find something new to enjoy. I've always tried to find the next thing that I like doing. I've always had this itch to tell stories. I thought, and still think, that is related to writing, that's related to short stories or long stories, novels, novellas, whatever. Those are things I still want to do, but that shit is hard. And I don't have time to do that. But I have now found new avenues to try to learn to tell stories. One of which is this podcast. The other which is the gaming channel. And that has allowed me to, for lack of a better term that I've already repeated. Hi, puppy. Yeah. That has allowed me to scratch the itch of storytelling. And I'm learning all the things that I've learned, apologies for repeating, that storytelling in video form is drastically different than storytelling in written form, which I knew, but drastically I didn't know. And then even in that, guys, that the YouTube shorts that I do, the audience capture, the audience retention for YouTube shorts is way different than audience retention for the longer form videos. So I go back to, for me, purpose and meaning then is learning. Finding an itch, try to scratch that itch, and learn. I can watch most movies now, and I can tell within the first 15 minutes what the twist is. Not always. I make sure I be careful with that. Not always. But the amount of times you hit that first pinch point, or before that first pinch point, the first time they drop the slightest hint of foreshadowing, I can usually go, okay, this is how this ends. And directionally, I'm pretty good at it. And that's because I've been trying to learn. I've been trying to teach myself storytelling, writing, etc. So happiness is important, but I think there's a sliding scale to that. Only doing what makes you happy limits you sometimes in many different ways, which I think goes into the third thing. I kind of alluded to this. This is the last point I think I'll make, is always look for new things that can make you happy. Always look for new things that can be an itch to scratch. So my best example for this is when I was in college. I wanted to be an English major because I wanted to write. I wanted to learn English, I wanted to learn literature, and I wanted to expound upon that. Well, I went back to school late. I was in my 30s, late 20s. I graduated in my 30s. And at the end of the day, my wife, she was my wife at the time, basically said, you're getting a business degree, find a business category and get into that. So I tried a few of them. I did not like accounting. I did not like finance. Not really. I was interested in administration because I think that's leadership focused, so that kind of made sense to me. But then there was economics, and I was not interested in economics, just the idea of economics. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And my wife convinced me, and her mom, my mother-in-law as well, convinced me to just try the basic class, literal microeconomics, intro to microeconomics, and I fucking loved it. I fucking loved it. And from there, I wanted to take every economics course I could find. It scratched this itch of rationale and logic for me. Like, I think that I have Whoojin jokes around about Brad. If you guys don't know Brad's Twitch TV, you should check him out. Brad needs flowcharts, right? And I think that there's a part of me that likes flowcharts because if this is what's supposed to happen. Now maybe things deviate and I can live with the deviation, but here's what's supposed to happen, then deviate. I actually really like that. And I didn't know that I liked that in my 30s, in my late 20s, until I took economics. That's a weird correlation to economics, but it's what I learned about myself by trying something new. Yes, I needed to be pushed. Yes, I was asked to try something different from my wife. But I think that that's an important part of finding meaning and purpose, is try the shit you don't want to try. Look at something you don't like and see if maybe it opens up a part of you that you didn't know existed. So I go back to the idea of doing what you like for the rest of your life, and I kind of extend that to try to do things you don't like, because you might find a part of you that has purpose you didn't know. I thought that was a powerful moment in my life in terms of opening my eyes. And again, I was in my late 20s, so you would have thought I would have learned that earlier, but I was never really given the opportunity to do so. Well, we are at almost 20 minutes. I have done my walk, and we're at the end of the conversation. I'm going to probably start doing more lore drops like this versus trying to find little topics. I feel like I'm always giving my perspective on things anyway, and I think that's what back in my day was going to be about. So let me know what you would like to hear about. If you have additional topics, or just give me feedback. I could do this on a walk every morning anyway, and then I just go in and post it. You know what I mean? I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.